welcome you to this special session, Code Kiosk, a dynamic webinar to help you understand the significance of developing and honing your computational thinking abilities. This webinar is organized to arm you with the 21st century skill of problem solving and guide you on the various fruitful aspects of learning programming. As the world is being transformed with new technologies every day, this webinar addresses your creative side and helps you to perceive coding as a powerful tool of creation. This is jointly held by EduDave School of Inspired Teaching and Learning and Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University. Representing EduDaves is I, Kuhika Dhingra, and I welcome all of you. And gracing us today from Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University, we have with us our programming expert, Ms. Dhanya M. Dhanalakshmi. Pursuing PhD in her field, she is an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Amrita University. She would introduce us to the basics of coding with its relevant implications in our everyday life. Thank you so much, ma'am, that you are here to address the students today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before we begin, so students, I would like to interact with you a little bit. You would not be able to unmute yourself, but if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A section. And I would like to first get to know all of you a little bit more. So I believe that you are having your online classes nowadays, right? All of your classes are online? Yes. So if you could let me know how many of you have used WhatsApp? You have. Yes. And I believe all of you have. So because WhatsApp has become an easy way of communication for us nowadays. All that we do, we communicate with each other via WhatsApp or other applications, right? And we know their features in and out completely. We know their features. So tell me one thing, that before WhatsApp was created, what did we use for non-verbal communication? So how did we interact with each other before WhatsApp? Let me know. I'm sure WhatsApp was not always there. Even before WhatsApp, we did have communication. So how did we interact with each other? Maybe you might think that via letters, or maybe you might say that via text. We had Facebook. Even now, many people use Facebook to interact with each other. What else? So there are so many things that we use, that we text each other. Even before that, we used to have pagers. And has any one of you ever used those small, phones with the K9 keypads, where you use those small phones to type with just 9 keys? Have you ever used that or heard about it? You have, right? It used to take us so much time to type just one message. So you know what, whenever we interact with technology, what is the purpose of these technological advancements? It is to make our life easier, correct? So be it via texting, or be it if we search something on Google, everything has become so much faster because it is happening with the help of technology. So even as I was saying about Google, so whenever we type in, we search anything on Google, what happens is that within 1 second, we get all of the results. So many lakhs and thousands and lakhs of results in less than a second. How is that possible? How is it possible that you are today attending online classes regularly and so conveniently? Maybe a decade before or 2 decades before, nobody thought about taking classes or attending classes on Zoom. Nobody heard about Zoom. But with technological advancement, it has become easier to operate, easier to interact with each other, to communicate, even to study. So all this has happened because there's programming at the back of it. We do not realize it, but programming has completely transformed our living. It has made it convenient, it has made it easier for us, and it has simplified so many things. So this is the role of technology in our life. And programming, there are so many programming languages that help us to transform the world around us. So with that thought, I would hand it over to Ms. Dhanya M, and she would take it forward.
So thank you, Kuhika ma'am. With whatever ma'am has given as an introduction, let us start. Let me share my screen. So ma'am, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Okay, it says, okay. So as Kuhika ma'am said, Code Kiosk is a dynamic webinar organized jointly by Edidaves and Amrita Vishwavidyapitham University to introduce coding to basically to the students, school students who are who may be learning coding or programming maybe, and there may be students who are new to it as well, just to give an introduction to what is coding, how relevant it is, etc. Okay, so if we move forward, like how ma'am said earlier, now we all of us use WhatsApp for texting, for audio calling and video calling. Even if we are miles apart, we can still see each other and communicate as if we are close to each other, right? So earlier these things were not possible. We used to communicate by sending a letter or a postcard. Then we have to wait for the reply for days, right? And if there is a strike or something, then that's it. We have to wait forever, right? What to say, like even the money orders, when it is sent, right, is like we had to wait for a longer time to get those things done, right? Now if you see, the conventional letters have been replaced by emails or text messages or WhatsApp messages or messenger chats, right? So what is the advantage? You have reduced the time to get the acknowledgement or the reply, right? So when we move from our conventional way of communication to this one, right, what has happened is we have reduced time drastically for getting a reply, for getting to know. So even when you see your WhatsApp, you have an option. When you send a message, the first tick says, okay, message is sent. Second tick says the message is delivered, right? And the blue tick tells you like, okay, the person has read the message, right? That's how the acknowledgements or the extra details that we get has improved, right? And then if we go to the field of education, we all know that we were all doing offline classes, and definitely in most of the schools they would have used like projectors, handouts, charts, etc. Maybe they would have also used PowerPoint presentation. You would have created it. We were using technology, but if you see the pandemic situation, it has gone steps ahead. Right now, you are sitting at home, you are listening to the classes, you are attending classes, you are even taking your exams sitting at home, right? So there is a shift that has happened, right? But still, you are able to, you are not missing any academic year as such. You are able to move from, say, 8th standard to 9th standard, even during this pandemic period. You have not missed any classes, you have not missed any subjects. You are continuing your learning process, right, through online medium, right? Now, when you talk about banking system, what you will see is earlier, even this time also, like we have to, for many transactions, we may have to go to the bank in person, stand there in a queue, get our work done, right? So now the banks are becoming smarter, right? They want to avoid this heavy queue, and if we have to wait for a longer time, the customer will get irritated. right? If the customer is getting irritated, obviously bank will lose its business, right? So they want to make things easier. They don't want the customer to wait for his things to get done. So they have moved from the conventional banking system to, say, internet banking. So you can transfer cash through like NEFT, RTGS, and so many other ways, right? Instant cash transfers are also possible. Then even they have moved to mobile based application. Each bank has a mobile application. If you click on that, you can do various basic aspects, right? So when we go to any office, government office or private office, wherever you need to keep track of records, details, right? Even your schools will have records related to the admissions, the details of the students who are studying, everything will be there. So conventionally, what we do is we maintain paper files, right? And this paper files take a lot of time, and their maintenance over a period of time is very difficult, right? So now what happens is, whatever be the work, whether it is admission letters or some other certificates or whatever, let it be anything related to the work, you can actually take the help of computers. You can store everything in the computer itself, right? And what is the other advantage? If it was paper file, say for example, you would like to see how your from term exam 1 to in the final exam, how the students have performed. Is there an improvement? Now, if I have to do it with respect to paper, I have to do a lot of manual calculation. But if I use a computer-based system, I can get this thing done in seconds and in a more beautiful way. The charts can be automatically created. I need not wait for anything. I can reduce my manual work. Okay. So, and similar to that, when we talk about hospitals and all, and if you see the CoWIN app that is recently developed, because the pandemic came in towards the end of 2019 only, within 6 months, we could come up with an application like CoWIN app or the Arogya Setu app, through which we could do many things. We could actually check for whether there is a chance of I getting affected by COVID, how many people around me are affected, how many people have taken a self-assessment report, all those things. Now, if you see, it is even more updated. You can book vaccine slots, you can update your vaccine status. So many things are available, right? So otherwise, if that system was not there, you just think about how much time it would take to consolidate the data, right? So earlier, normal case, if we want to see a doctor, we have to book an appointment maybe on the day before, right? To check whether that doctor will be available or not. Then we have to book a token, and then we have to go to the hospital, wait there in the queue, right? So now, if you see, most of the hospitals and doctors have come up with online consultation. They give you apps or websites through which you can actually post your queries. You can give your test reports, soft copy. You can state your symptoms. There will be one person, one doctor who will be seeing your the files that you have uploaded, the symptoms that you have posted, and they'll be able to do some diagnosis. And they'll be able to guide you if you need immediate medical attention as well. So all these things are possible because of somebody has written a code, or somebody has written a set of programs. A set of programs, we call it as application in terms of desktop and all, or we call it as apps in case of our mobile, right? So either it is a laptop or a desktop or a mobile, somebody has written a set of programs or set of codes to make all these things happen. Then what is the advantage? So that is what is the importance of coding is in today's life, right? Then what are the advantages if I know coding, right? I can automate my manual working strategy so that my work get done faster. So you can just look into any aspect, right? I have reduced the time a lot, right? And I become smarter. I can get better presentation, I can get better graphs, I can get more details, I can do more analysis, right? So my working style will become smarter and smarter. right? And then usually the computers are good tools to extend your capabilities, your working capabilities, right? Even with the like introduction of artificial intelligence and all, right? Your systems are becoming more and more useful to improve your skills. You can learn more skills, right? And there are so many ways to improve your skill set, right? And computers are a better option for improving your skills or extending your skills. They act as a kind of personal assistant to you, right? Now if you just want to know the first Apollo rocket that went, right? The computing capability that was provided for this Apollo to go to the space, your mobile has the processing capability of around, say, thousands of such Apollo machines, right? So that capability you have with you actually. So you can do wonders if you actually learn coding. Then, like how reading and writing is considered as an essential skill for everybody, nowadays for this 21st century generation, coding is also considered as an essential skill. For any field that you take, everywhere there is a presence of code. Some programs are working behind. Something is automating your manual work into a computer-based or a mobile-based application. So if you know coding, you can improve your system better. Okay, so these are few tips to say that why coding or programming is important, right? And then can somebody tell me like who is known as the father of computer? You would have heard that name, right? Yeah, can somebody tell me who is known as the father of computer? Maybe. So I'll say the father of computer is a person called Charles Babbage, right? So that great man came up with two, what do you call, two machines, analytical engine and differential engine, for doing the calculations, right? For doing a bit of complex calculations, to automate the process of doing scientific calculations, right? But do you know who the first programmer is? The first programmer was a lady, right? He is called a countess, right? A very elite position in the society, right? He was a countess, so she was a countess actually. So her name was Lady Ada Augusta Lovelace. She is considered as the first programmer who wrote the first program for Charles Babbage's machine, right? And if I ask you, you would have heard about Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella, right? Sundar Pichai, then so many other names, Elon Musk. Have you heard about all such names? Have you heard such names? Can I get a yes or no? Okay. So there are so many prominent personalities in the field of technology and coding and all. Now there are women as well, right? So let us see few famous ladies in the field of technology, right? Obviously, Lady Ada is already there. And there are Grace Hopper, Hedy Lamarr, Annie Easley, Adlai Goldberg. So many people are there. And these are just a few. There are more, right? So we are all, why this is named as women and coding is we are already familiar with so many men who are there in the field of technology. So thought of just introducing to you some prominent women, right? Then why we are like concentrating on women's side is because whenever you talk about products and services, you would have seen like Flipkart, Amazon, and other companies who provide online shopping facilities and other things, right? So there are other services or applications that are actually meant for, say, women healthcare, women fitness, then women related product, right? So what happens is a study have found out that since there is a lesser number of women coming into the field of coding, there is a gap between what women actually need and what is actually available for them in the form of a service. So we want more women to come into the field of coding so that this gap can be bridged. And I'm talking about at a universal level or global level, okay? Right. So then coding is an area that actually provides you a very balanced financial equality and workplace equality when compared to other science, technology, and engineering, mathematics related jobs, right? So this should actually encourage more women to come to the coding and automation side so that such a gap can be filled. And there are other researchers that states that this coding and programming requires you to make multiple decisions and do multiple tasks simultaneously, because you will be working on a very big application like say Arogya Setu, and there will be multiple people working on it, and then you have to work together, you have to work on different aspects, and you have to make quick decisions, right? So if your team has a good mix of men and women, your solutions will become better, your decision making process and this multitasking, all these things will become easier, because certain neurological studies have found out that women are quick decision makers and they are good in multitasking, right? Then what we have is it's again, all these things are studies by Oxford universities and Harvard University and all, right? None of them are some statements that I make. I take it from the authentic sources, right? So we can adapt better to the working environment, right? So that also is there. So this should encourage more people coming into the field of coding, especially when we are moving to an era where everything is getting automated, right? Now, let us discuss about something called competitive coding. So first, let me tell you, there is not much difference between coding and programming, right? So when I write something to make a machine do what I used to do manually, that is called a program. The art of writing a program is called coding. Basically, there is no great difference between the terms coding and programming. Now, there is something called programming bar coding. Many have identified programming as a sport that can stimulate your brain. It acts as an exercise to your brain. It is kind of mental sport. And if you're interested in programming, it becomes a fun activity for you, right? So when such a competition, such a sport is presented as a competition to you, that becomes competitive coding. Okay. So we will tell you why we are telling all these details to you, right? And then I am just giving you one popular definition for competitive coding by Wikipedia. The main goal of this competitive coding is to make a person who is interested in coding improve that person's thinking capability, problem solving capability, and sharpen his thinking skills, decision making skills. And then if that person is a good coder, if that person takes part in competitive coding, this way of writing code will improve, and he or she can write code for challenging situations, right? It may be some person who would have developed the Arogya Setu app, right? It can be a student like you as well, right? There are so many students who of your age who have come up with, say, games, who have come up with applications that is of social relevance. There are so many COVID related applications, mobile applications available, and many of them are actually developed by students of various institutions, right? That help you to keep track of COVID and get some medical help or any other thing like that, right? So if you want to solve such problems, right, real life problems, by writing code, competitive coding will help you out, right? And then the major companies like Google, Facebook, and most of the students who are interested in coding will be dreaming to have a job in this big companies. So they actually recruit the candidates with the help of competitive coding. So if you have the habit of writing programs and participating in competitive coding, your chance of getting selected will be more. Okay, then generally, even if it is not for getting a coding related job, what are the benefits of me participating in competitive coding? If I'm interested in coding related jobs, I can get a better training. I will get better opportunities, jobs that gives me more higher salary and best positions, right? And even if I'm not going into this particular area, as all the areas that we can see around us are becoming automated, right? What happens is, if I take part in competitive coding, or even if I do coding on a regular basis, what will happen is I'll become more focused. And as we do more and more coding, your coding speed will improve. That will also help you in solving real life problems as well. Need not be for automating. Your thinking capability will improve actually. And what happens is, it gives you a chance to expose yourself to complex and challenging situations, right? So something like a simple example I can tell you is, like, you can come up with a system that will set an alarm to the farmer if at night some wild animals are coming into his field, so that that person need not go and spend the entire night in the field just to ward off those animals, right? So you can solve real life problems, and you can even think of how to solve, say if I have only limited number of, say, pipe connections or something like that in my area, or if it is a water scarce region, how can I save water? How can I use it in a better way? All these things can be designed. So what happens is, it need not be always writing a code or thinking about this thing. So participating in competition, coding competitions and all will help you to improve your thinking capability. You will start thinking about various possibilities. Okay, so you will become a better thinker and better problem solver. And usually this coding competitions happens in the form of teams. So what happens is, I will become good in teamwork. That will help me wherever I go, in whichever field I go. I'll become a good leader. I'll become a good team player. So I'll become a good communicator. So as a result, what will happen is, because for winning competitive coding, you need to have all these things. At certain time, you have to become the leader. At sometimes you have to be a good team player. Sometimes you have to you should be able to communicate appropriately your ideas to your teammates. So your skills are improved, right? Now, before we actually go into the field of coding, so let us talk about generally about problem solving, right? Most of the time, whenever I want to solve a problem, I need to identify what the actual problem is. When we think about the problems that we solve in school, we will see that the problems are already defined. It is properly, clearly defined. Say, you will get a question, very simple example. You will get a question stating like, if a circle is drawn with radius 5 centimeter, what will be its perimeter? So you know very well what is the situation. The shape is a circle, and it has a parameter called radius, which will be used to calculate the perimeter. And you know the equation for calculating the perimeter. So the problem is actually well defined. The input is given to the system, and the input is the radius. The output expected from you is applying 2 pi r, you get the result. You know what pi is, you know, given the radius value, you know what r is. Just apply it in formula, get the result. So usually your problems are pretty much already identified and written down properly. Okay, so I can give you a situation, a real life situation that can actually tell you what is the importance of identifying the problem. Okay, so one car company, they launched a new model of car in the market. One person bought the car that person was very happy for all the features that were available with that new model. But within, say, 1 month or two, the customer service department of the car company gets a call from this customer. And that complaint is like this. I guess the new model of car that you have launched is allergic to vanilla ice cream, right? I don't know, whenever we go for buying vanilla ice cream, or the car will not start after that. So can you look into the problem and can you tell us what the problem is? Why is your car allergic to vanilla ice cream? So that was the query. Okay. So if you were the customer support person who was attending this call or who was reading this mail, what will come into your mind? Is there a possibility of mechanical machine like a car having an issue with an ice cream flavor? Is it possible? Is it possible to have a machine having an allergy to a one particular ice cream flavor? If you ask me, I'll say like no, right? No, right. So that is our common understanding. A machine cannot have a problem with this one. Now, it is the duty of the customer service expert to identify what the actual problem is. Okay. So this person goes to that customer's house, spend some time with them, and they go and the customer supporting person also identified that whenever the family is going and buying vanilla ice cream, the car will not start. If it is some other flavor of the ice cream, that this customer is buying, there is no problem with the car. It starts. So he got confused. So he started to note down all the details, and ultimately he identified that the time that this customer takes to go and buy vanilla ice cream is very less when compared to he goes and buys some other ice cream flavor. So ultimately, after his analysis, he identified that if the engine is switched off and this much amount of time is not given, there is some vapor lock forming inside, the engine is not cooling down. As a result, the engine won't start. Now, what was the problem? How did the problem come? Saying that your car is allergic to one vanilla ice cream flavor. But what is the actual problem? That was identified only through deeper analysis, right? So whatever appears to you as a problem may not be the real problem, right? So that is why, so whenever a situation is given to you, you need to dig deeper and understand the root cause. What is the actual problem? And once you identify that, you have to write it down. Then other thing that you need is you need to identify the input, output, and all. So input, as we have already discussed, if the previous example that I told you, the input is radius and the expected output is the area or the perimeter, that whatever we have to calculate. And then there are something called assumptions, constraints, and prerequisites and all that we will see in the upcoming slides. Okay. Then we have to think whether have we solved any similar problem. If a similar kind of problem is solved, can I try the solution which is already there for solving this one as well? Or can I modify it slightly such that it becomes okay, right? Then one more thing that we need to do is we have to think of all possible scenarios, right? So maybe if I bluntly say, calculate the area of the given triangle, right? So there is a common equation, root of s into s minus a into s minus c into s minus c, where s is a plus b plus c by 2. A, B, C are the lengths of the sides of the triangle. This will work for any type of triangle. But there are different types of triangle: isosceles triangle, equilateral triangle, then you have the right angle triangle, etc. So all these different combinations have different separate equations to find the area. If you identify that this is this kind of triangle, you can apply that particular equation directly. So you have to think of all possible such situations and their solutions. And depending upon your current scenario, you have to select the best design out of it. So this is what the steps of problem solving is, not just your coding problems, right? So whenever you are coding also, you will have this thing. You have to identify the problem, define it appropriately, identify what is input, output, how I solved a similar kind of problem, and then think of all possibilities and select the best one. So this is about designing. And then this design is what is becoming a code or a program. So problem solving is a basic that is required before you actually start learning coding, right? And these same steps are depicted in the form of 2 images, right? So we will see a few examples over here, and then step 3, the part writing a simple code, how to come up with how to write your own code as a demo will be given by Kuhika ma'am. So let us try to solve a problem. I have n classmates in the sense I'm just using a variable, because say 8th A class can have 45 students, 9th B can have say 60 students, 10th C can have say 50 students, right? So this keeps on changing with respect to the class in which I am studying. So I'm just using a variable. It is something like that X and Y thing that you use in your maths. Okay, so I call it with the same name n, which means that its value can change with respect to the class in which I am. So I'll generally say there are n classmates, right? So on your birthday, you want to give equal number of chocolates, and those chocolates should be given completely. You are not going to split any chocolate to all those who are present when you take the chocolates, right? And then there are 2 possibilities. Out of n classmates, some of them are absent, right? That is possible, quite possible, right? But I'm making an assumption or a condition here, right? My assumption is like, I assume that I will like there won't be any working day on which every one of my classmates is going to be absent. That is not possible. At least one person will be present, right? Or another option that I have is every one of my classmates are present, right? So I have to get the minimum number of chocolates that I need to carry, such that whether it is only one classmate present or 2 classmates present or all the n classmates are present also, this m chocolates can be equally distributed in whole numbers, okay? Not like 1.5, 2.25, etc. If I am giving a chocolate, I'll give it as a whole. So it will be either 2 or 3. There is nothing called 2.25 or 2.5 and all, right? So I have to carry a minimum number of m chocolates such that it can be equally distributed among the classmates who are present on that day. So my question is this one. I am going to create a candy machine which is filled with candies. If I give the number of my classmates, it should give me the m number of chocolates, minimum number of chocolates that can be equally distributed. So what is the input to this particular problem? I am entering the number of my classmates, total number of my classmates. Why I am giving only total number of classmates? Only when I go to the class only I'll know how many of them are present. So I'll assume that all of them are present. So I'll give n as the input, right? Then I have to get minimum number of m chocolates. That is the output. The machine is supposed to give me m chocolates, right? That can be equally shared between the classmates who are present on that day, right? So let us try with this example. So if n is 1, right? So if I have only, if I'm taking a tuition, I'm going to a teacher who is taking private tuition, and I have only one friend of mine, right? So my number of classmates is 1. So the minimum number of chocolates that I need to carry is 1. Okay. So why it is 1? Why it is not this one? Because I assume that if I have only one classmate, I'll take the chocolate when that person is present only, right? So minimum number of chocolates that I need to carry is 1. If you want more, you can do it. My this one is minimum number of chocolates, right? Now when n is 2, I know that m also is 2, right? So I have 2 classmates. There are 2 possibilities. Any one of them is absent or both of them are present. If any one of them is absent, if I take 2 chocolate, I can give both the chocolates to the person who is present. If both of them are present, if I take 2 chocolates, I can give 1 to each. So what if I have 3 classmates? What if I have 3 classmates? Can somebody tell me, can somebody give me a number? So the obvious answer is, the usual answer is 3, right? So what happens is, let us see what if m is also 3. So I take 3 chocolates to the class, right? If all of them are present, all my classmates, 3 of them are present, I'll give 1 to each. Well and good. No, nothing remains. If only one person is present, I can give all the 3 chocolates to that person, or then also nothing remains with me. But what if 2 people are present, which means one person is absent? If I take 3 chocolates, what will happen is, after giving one each, there will be 1 chocolate remaining, which I cannot accept, right? I am not intending to bring back the chocolates that are there, right? So what happens is the answer is not 3, so it is 6, all right? So if I take 6, if only one person is present, I'll give all the 6 to them. If 2 of them are present, I can divide it equally as 3 per person. If all of them are present, I can give 2 each, right? So what if n is 4? So the answer is 12. Basically, you can verify. Okay. Now, isn't it similar to a concept that you have learned in your this one, maths? What is that concept? Can somebody tell me? It is similar to a concept that you have learned in your maths. And we will call it as LCM, least common multiplier, right? What is the feature of LCM? LCM of the given numbers, if I calculate that, it will be exactly divisible by each of the number that is given over there. So now what LCM am I calculating? I'm calculating the LCM of all numbers from 1 to 4. That is what 12 is. Or all the LCM of all numbers from 1 to 3 is what 6 is. Right? So now what I'm going to do is this is my problem. So I have identified and I have found the solution as this. So now I have to come to a solution. I have to find out a strategy by which I can make the computer to make the LCM for me, right? So I will assume that I have 10 classmates. So I'll start with 10 chocolates and I'll see whether this 10 chocolates can be divided equally among all numbers from 1 to 10. So with 3 itself, you will find that 3 cannot divide 10 completely. So if I divide 10 by 3, I'll get 1 as remainder, which I cannot take. 3 times 3 is 9. So when I give 10, I'll get a remainder as 1, which means that 1 chocolate remains after equal distribution, right? So which is not an acceptable scenario. So then how will I proceed? I will update the number of chocolates to the next number, whole number 11, and I'll continue the process. This will also not work. Even if I give 20 also, it is not going to work. So I have to calculate the LCM of all numbers from 1 to 10. That is what I'm going to do. Right? Now, I identified, okay, what I am supposed to do. I'll start with a smaller number. Then I'll keep on incrementing the number of chocolates and I'll repeat a process to see that whether the new number of chocolates that I have calculated is equally divisible by all numbers from 1 to n, where n is the maximum number of classmates that I have. Okay. So get the number of classmates. Start with the number of chocolates which can be equal to the number of classmates initially, and then I'll try to divide this number of chocolates m by numbers, all the numbers from 1 to n. So there are 2 possibilities. The current m value is completely divisible by all numbers from 1 to n. So I can instruct the candy machine to dispense those many number of candies and stop. If it is not divisible by at least one number, right, I have to increase the number of candies by 1. That is what increment m is all about. And then I have to go back and repeat the same procedure. Okay. So now let us see how a solution will look like. So when I write a code, before I convert my solution into a code, I'll write the design, which is called as algorithm, which can be easily converted into a programming language code, right? And this algorithm can be represented in 2 ways: in the form of a diagram, which we call it as flowchart, and in the form of our normal written language, we call it as pseudocode, or this is also called as algorithm itself, right? So now what I will do is, I know that I need to enter the number of my classmates n, and I have to get the number of candies m, and then this is like just for some calculation, and this is also for checking whether this current value of m is completely divisible by all numbers from 1 to n. So when I enter the number of classmates, I'll initially set m as n minus 1. So if n is 10, my m will be 9. Then I'll be repeating this step 5 as long as my flag is equal to 0. So I can even say like I'm setting my flag is equal to 0 initially over here. right? So then what will I do is I'll set m as m plus 1. So if n is 10, m was 9, now m is 10. Then I'll set a flag to 1 indicating that the current value of m is completely divisible by all numbers from 1 to n. That is just my assumption. This is an assumption that I'm doing. Then I'll take one number at a time. I'll take candies as 1 and I'll try finding the remainder. This will give me the remainder. So if m is 10, 10 mod 1. 10 mod 1 will give me the remainder of 10 getting divided by 1. So what will happen? The remainder will be 0. Okay. So if the remainder is not 0 only, then this step will come, right? If the remainder is 0, it will not happen. So it will go back to 5.3 again. So candies become 2. Then 10 mod 2. 10 divided by 2, what is the remainder? That is also 0. So then also it won't execute. Now what happens? Candies become 3, right? 10 mod 3. I'll get 1 because 10 by 3, quotient is 3, remainder is 1. So 1 is not equal to 0. So my flag will become 0. So flag was initially 1, now it has become 0, right? So this is called a condition checking. So only when this condition is met, you will execute the statement. Otherwise, it will be skipped. Then what happens? Candies become 4. Again, this process is continued, right? So this statement will get executed only when this condition is good, right? So ultimately, when m was 10, I would have set my flag to 0. So after executing the condition checking for all numbers from 1 to 10, I'll go back to this step and check whether flag is 0. I have already set flag is equal to 0 with the number of candies is equal to 3, right? So as a result, what happens is m will become 11 and the same procedure is repeated again. And finally, I'll get an m in such a way that it is divisible by all numbers from 1 to n. And in that case, I can display m and stop. Okay. So that is about the design part. Now I hand over the session to Kuhika ma'am to take you through an introduction to coding. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Ma'am wonderfully explained how we can identify a problem and how we can go about identifying the solution and writing it in code. So I hope that would answer a lot of questions for you. And so you might be looking at this and understanding how we can identify the problem. But you might also be wondering that you are just in school. So if you have to start learn coding, where should you begin? Is that the question that you have as well today? So if that is the question that is in your mind, that where you can begin, so I would like you to hold on to that question, and why don't we take a quick break here and play a game? But not just any game, why don't we create a game together? Would you like that? Would you like to create a game with me together here? And has any one of you ever heard about Scratch? So Scratch is actually a tool that helps you to create your own animations, your own stories. You could create anything and you can literally do it from scratch, and you would do it with the help of coding concepts. You wouldn't even realize it, but you would be using coding concepts to create a game, your very own game. So why don't you and I together create one game today? Let us create a very simple game of something that's falling from the sky and we are just catching it. Sounds so simple, right? But let us see if we can do that, if we can create it with the help of coding. So if you see on the left hand side, let me first put the link to this application in the chat. Whenever you have time, you could explore it for yourself. You could go to a browser, any device that you have, spare device around you, and you could explore it for yourself. So once you log in and you click on start creating, on the left hand side, you would see these tools. Let us close this. And you would see these tools, and these are the tools that give you the power to create, because in this game you are the creator, not just the player. You are the creator and you are creating your own game. So let us begin. The first thing that we have to do here is we have to select an animation, a character. So if we are playing a game and creating one where we have to catch something, so let's take a board, right? And let's also choose a background. So if you could let me know what background can we choose for our game. Would you like to choose on my behalf? Out of these, which one can we select? Could you let me know? Maybe we could keep it simple by a boardwalk, or let us use a basketball court. So this is the background of our game. We have set it. Now, if you see here, the screen is absolutely blank. This is because we have not given any command for the ball yet. So the very first thing that we do here is we define an event. And how do we do that? We take this option, which is when green flag click. So when we put it here, we have defined the event that whenever I'm going to click on the green flag, the ball is going to do whatever I put in the commands for it to do. So then we ask ourselves that when we are clicking on the green flag, what is the first thing that we would want the ball to do? That is that we would want it to move to the left and to the right, correct? Whenever we are pressing the keys, we would want it to move to the left and to the right. So to be able to do that, the first thing that we do here is we go to motion and we take the move 10 steps, but we don't put it like that. We don't put it just like that. Why? Because we wanted to move to the right when we are pressing the right key. So to be able to do that, what I do here is I use something known as if and then. So when I'm using if and then, I am saying that I want the ball to move to the right when I'm pressing the right key, not just anytime. So I would go to sensing and we would put this in the if. And we would put it here. However, even if I'm pressing the green flag, if you see it blinks only once. Why is that the case? Because only when I press the green flag, only at that point of time, the computer is sensing if I'm pressing the right key. Since it is a game, I want it to be sensing at all times if I'm pressing the right key or not. So for that, I use here something known as forever. This is known as a loop, and we put this event in the loop. So let's see. Now when I click it, it's highlighted and it's going to the right. If you notice that when ma'am wrote the code as well, she said at one place that we have to repeat the code. If ever you have seen codes written in programming languages, you have seen that some statement is repeated so many times. Why is that? That is called a loop, wherein we write the same thing. We write one thing again and again because we want it to be in a loop. So if I wanted to come back to its original position, I would use the same here. I would use the left key, and I would instead of moving 10 steps to the right, I would move 10 steps to the left. So to be able to do that, let's take -10 here. And let's see. Now that you see the basis of our game has been set, let us move on to the next step, which is we would choose something that would fall from the sky. So what would you like? Would you like to choose an apple, maybe a basketball, a balloon? You have to help me out here. So what should we choose? Something that would fall from the sky and we are catching it. A ball. Okay. Let us choose a basketball here, right? So now you see, when I have chosen the basketball, the screen is again blank because we have not given any commands here. Can you guess what would be the very first command that we would give for the basketball? How would we define the very first event? Can you guess? How about when green flag clicked, that would be the very first event that we are defining here, correct? So this is how we would define the first event for the basketball. Now, when we are clicking the green flag, we want it to fall from the top. And for it to fall from the top, we have to give it the command that it should go to the top as well, right? So to do that, we would go in this place and we would choose this option, which is go to a random position. Now, not just any random position, we have to define which random position it should begin with. So to be able to do that, what we choose here is change Y by 180. What does this mean? This means that if you see this frame is on an axis, there's an X axis and a Y axis. Every object on this frame is on an axis. So currently the basketball is at minus 16 on the x-axis and 32 on the y-axis. So we wanted to fall from the top. So we defined it as 180 and we say that it would fall from the top. However, we also wanted to fall. So right now we have just asked it to go to a random position. The next step is that we take a loop because we want it to be falling at all times. And we again change the y position to -5. If you see that, see, are you enjoying creating this game together? So the next thing that we do is, since it has reached the bottom, we wanted to go back up. So again, we would take the if and else. The if then is called if else even. So if when we take this, we are saying that when it has reached the bottom, it should go back up. To be able to define that, we use something known as operators here, where we would define the y position on the axis, y-axis. So we use this here and we say that when y is minus, you could take any number here, I'll take minus 170. So when y position is less than minus 170, then the ball would go back up. So first let's define the y position here and choose the same options, which are go to a random position, and the axis would be 180. So now let's see what's happening. See, it's going back up. However, it doesn't feel like a game yet, right? Because we need to catch it with our ball and we should also keep a score, right? Because it's a game. So to be able to do that, we would again take when green flag clicked and we would have our variable here. If you saw that ma'am also mentioned making a variable. So we have our variable and we would set our variable to 0. Let us also change its name to score. So when we have our variable here, we have defined our variable. Let's see how do we keep a score here. So we have set the score to 0, and when we'll begin the game, first we'll put it in a loop because we want this to be happening at all times. We are defining that if the basketball touches the ball, my score would go up, right? So we go to sensing and we say that if it touches the ball, my score would go up. We go back to variable and change the score by 1. But let's also add a sound to it. You could choose any number of sounds. There are so many options available, so many tutorials for you. And believe it or not, what you're doing right now, you are using the basic concepts of code to be able to create your own game. So we put this here, and again, we would give the command that it would go back to a random position. I hope you're enjoying creating this game together. Are you? So this would change by 180. And let's see what we have created here. See, we have also added sound to it. You could add music to it, add anything that you would like. And within 10 minutes, you and I have created a game together from scratch. So this is the power of coding. And you know what? We used coding concepts here. We used the concepts of programming. How? We defined an event. The first thing that we did was define an event. Then we took, as I said, we took something that is known as a loop here, a forever loop. I explained that. And we also use this, which is known as if and else. And you use this in your day-to-day life as well. So, for example, you entered this Zoom meeting, right? How did that happen? Because there was something written at the background that if someone would click on this link, they would enter the meeting. So as soon as you clicked on the link, you were able to enter the meeting. How does Google help you to have so many results? Because it's written that if someone would type this is the result that they would get. So this if and else event is used a lot of times in coding, and there are so many things that are used here. So I would, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat here and we would love to answer those for you. I am again putting the link to this in the chat box. I would love for you to go there and explore. So this is the fun side of coding. This is how you can begin from scratch and learn coding for yourself. But there's also another side to coding, which is the competitive side. So Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University has recently launched a first ever girls only coding competition, wherein they are calling in girls from grade 8 to 12 to take part in competitive program. It is happening at an international level, and they are encouraging you to be a coder. So I'm putting the link to this in the chat box as well. What you can do is, this is happening in the coming month, and you can get all the information here on this website. You can go to the ICPC website and register yourself for this competition. It would happen on the Code Drills platform. It is a platform wherein you can take part in competitions of competitive program. So let us know if you have any questions regarding the game or regarding ma'am's presentation or regarding the competition, and we would love to answer those for you. Did you enjoy today's session that we had for you? That's great. We would love for you to go and explore this tool that we have here. Any questions that you have for us today?
No issues. You can ask, but like, let us see like how deep it is. Please go ahead, Sean. I hope you are learning Python in school, or you are learning it in the any other on your own. Are you learning it on your own?
Sean, would it be all right if I allow you to talk? Maybe you can ask the question directly. If it's a long and deep question, maybe you can ask directly if you want. Unmute yourself.
What is a generator in Python? Oh my God, that is, I guess I also have to basically refer to such technical terms basically. So, to be very frank, I have not came across such a term. I have used Python for writing codes and all, but this thing, maybe I can get back to you. Through Kuhika ma'am, I'll just try to find out and get back to you. What is meant by a generator, because Python is like what I have explored is very limited. It's a language that has lots of scope and capability. Maybe to which direction you are referring to, I may have to look in. Definitely, I'll get back to you, Sean.
Sean, if you could put in your email address here, and we would love to get back to you on this. Any other questions that you have for us? Or if you would like to unmute yourself, maybe you could raise your hand, and I'll allow you to unmute so that you can ask your question. Was today's session helpful for all of you? We really hope that you understood and got to know a little bit more about coding today.
And just one simple request is basically like even if you are learning coding, right? Just understand coding is just a part of a bigger picture. Okay, most of the time, if the problem is clearly defined, you will be able to write a code for it. In most of the courses that you learn related to programming, if you are already into coding or programming, your problems will be clearly defined actually. But when we go into a real life scenario, the problems may not be that clearly defined, right? So we feel that identifying the problem and designing a solution is always required. Okay, coding comes after that only. If you do a proper problem understanding, and if we do a good design, then your code also will become better actually, if you see, right? So that's just a suggestion. You can just ponder over that particular point. You can just see it yourself, like you'll be able to do that, right? Yeah.
So since there are no many questions, since there aren't any more questions, we would like to take your leave, and I would really like to thank Mr. Gulamra for hosting us in the school, and also to Shinu sir for coordinating the event. And thank you so much, students, that you have joined. I especially want to thank Ms. Dhanya for addressing the students today and being a part of this session. It
Thank
was
you, ma'am.
lovely interacting with you. Thank you so much once again, students, that you joined, and we would take your leave. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.